This is why your students are losing their minds whenever you try to incorporate creative technology. And it's probably not what you think. So picture this. You are in your classroom or at home homeschooling, and you decide that we're going to take this to the next level and we're going to include some ed tech in our lesson. Well, that was your first mistake. You didn't plan for it. So now you're running around trying to find the perfect new ed tech tool to try with your students. You throw it at them. They're confused. You're confused. You're trying to pull up things on the board. You're trying to share out links, this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, if you're in the classroom, you've probably got 2 or 3 kids trying to do cartwheels in the back. You've got probably a kid crying, one who's decided to bust out their snacks. And things are quickly spiraling into chaos. I've been there. I've done that. I have lived that rodeo and I don't want to go back. So these are the 3 things that you need to do to keep your ed tech practice from spiraling into chaos. So the first one is to plan with creative tech in mind. So repeat after me. We're going to plan with creative tech in mind. I know you write lesson plans and they're probably lengthy and beautiful. If you're a veteran teacher, you probably have a very well thought out sticky note. But we sometimes forget to plan the creative tech piece. We know that we want our students to do something with technology, and we may even throw in a fun interactive lesson like a quizzes or maybe even throw in like a gym kit or something. But that's not quite the ed tech that we're talking about today. The ed tech I'm talking about is creative technology, the piece that allows your students to create something using technology. I look at it more as another medium and not necessarily forcing technology down students' throats. So when we're planning, we need to think about what we want the outcome to be. So for example, if you are doing a research project on sea turtles and you have found a great video on sea turtles, maybe you've pulled a passage off of ReadWorks about sea turtles, what can your students create that shows what they know after they've learned about sea turtles? This is where platforms like Book Creator, Canva, or even a Google Suite can come into play. So when you think about what you want your students creating at the end of the lesson or unit, that's going to take a lot of the chaos out of the equation because you already know what the end goal is, and you can start prepping your students for using that technology before you get there. And that's a big part. Students need to feel comfortable with the platform they're using to create. So I suggest if you're new or if your students are new to a platform or type of creative tool, give it 4 to 6 weeks before you abandon ship and try something new, because you want your students to become professionals with it before you move on. So that's number 1, plan with creative technology in mind. The second one, and I think this is another part that quickly dissolves into chaos, is collaboration. So we need to provide that space for collaboration. And a lot of that looks like providing scaffolding depending on your students. So I teach gifted students at the moment, and I have grades 1st through 5th. The way that I have my 5th graders collaborate is very, very different than how I have my 1st graders collaborate. If I tell my 1st graders to get into a group and work on the assignment, it will be chaos, and I will literally have some students trying to do cartwheels in the classroom. But my 5th graders can handle that because they've practiced collaboration so far in their educational journey that as long as I have some rules about what collaboration looks like in my class, I can tell them, pick your partner, pick your team, here's what you're working on, go for it. With 1st grade, I give them their partner or small group and I tell them why. So for example, we just did a little project about magnets, and I put them into teams to work on Book Creator. And I told them there's 3 people in each team. One person is the expert in your group on Book Creator. I've seen them use it. I know they know what they're doing. They are your go-to person when you're not sure what feature to use. There's another person in your group who is a proficient reader. So again, this is first graders and they have books that they're using to gather information. I want to make sure that somebody in the group is a strong enough reader that if I can't get back to the group, somebody can help. So one person in the group is a pro at the creative tool that we were using, Book Creator. One person was a proficient reader and could help their classmates if they got stuck. And then I told them I had one person in their group who's really good at bringing everyone together and keeping everyone on track. Now, I did not tell them who was who. And that was on purpose because then I got to watch them not go to their group thinking that they knew everything, but they went to their group waiting. They went to their group waiting to see who was going to step up to talk about Book Creator and who was going to be the person to help with reading. And it took a lot of the pressure off of having a team leader and who's going to be doing all the work. They were able to work together knowing that they have people in their group to help them if I can't get back to them. I also gave them a notes page. So again, with 5th graders, I just tell them to get out a piece of paper. You probably want to take 3 to 5 notes, depending on what you want your presentation to be. For 1st grade, that's way too advanced, even with my gifted 1st graders. So I give them a piece of paper, and we're working on handwriting still in 1st grade. So I use the handwriting font in Canva and I type out the heading. So this was my magnet book. And then that way they can trace it and it kind of reminds their brain this is what we're doing. Then I gave them sentence starters. And so they had 3 sentences that they were completing on their own, but they already had the starter to trace. That way they can talk together, they can work together, come up with a sentence, but they each have to write that sentence to practice their handwriting. So that's number 2, is to give students a way to collaborate. And then finally, practice writing. So I think sometimes we put creative technology and ed tech and then writing practice into 2 separate boxes. But when you think about it, writing is part of everything that we do in everyday life. I know when I was in school, it was not the most favorite subject time for most people. I loved writing and I've loved it since I was a child because of my grandmother, who was a teacher. She and I would sit around and we would tell stories and we would make up stories together and we would feed off each other's stories. And actually that's how I created my game, Story Coins. It was based on what I did with my grandmother. So writing for me always came naturally, but I'd never understood why. And as an adult, and then after teaching, I've realized it's because my grandmother built a foundation in me that allowed for me to think and be creative and communicate before I was ever required to write something down. And I think that's the disconnect for our students. They have all these great thoughts and they're creative and imaginative, but getting their thoughts from here to the paper, there's a roadblock, there's a barrier. So I often give my students alternatives to writing on paper. Sometimes they can make a video, they could just come tell me, they can create a presentation, they can draw a picture. I have some amazing artists in my class. And if I give them the option to present the information in a way that is a little easier for them to process, then we can come back to writing some traditional sentences. But it's not the first thing that I require. And so I think that when we are thinking about practicing writing, we get stuck in the most common form of that, which is pencil to paper and making your organizer and writing your 5-paragraph essay. And there's a place for that, of course, but it's not the only thing on the menu when it comes to writing. There's so many different ways that our students can share their voice and their ideas and communicate that doesn't require just the good old-fashioned pencil to paper type writing production. So if your students are dissolving into chaos whenever you try to incorporate EdTech, I want you to keep these 3 things in mind. Number 1, plan with the creative technology in mind, okay? Provide your students with a way to collaborate. Give them some type of structure in their collaboration. And then finally, practice writing in whatever format that looks like for your students. Practice communicating and sharing your voice, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, most beautiful gift that we can give to our students. If you are interested in deep diving even more into technology, creative tech, ed tech, there's other videos on my channel that you can check out about writing and ed tech. But I also, if you're still with me, you might want to check out my course. It's $27. It's a 5-week course all about becoming content with ed tech. So the first week we dive into what is educational technology, and then weeks 2 through 5, you have 4 weeks of actual practice with your students in the classroom. So I give you weekly lessons to do with your students for creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And these are things that you can easily incorporate in 5, maybe 15 minutes, depending on the task and the student's age. But these are things that you'll be able to do to enhance your standards that you're already teaching and to help your students start developing 21st century skills that they're going to need in life regardless of what path they choose in the future. So if you're interested in that course, there's a link down below. It'll take you to the course and you can sign up. Thanks for hanging out with me. Take care.